They called him the Buddha of country music. Calm, forgiving, unshakable. But that was a lie. Behind the bandanas and the smoke, Willie Nelson remembers everything. Every betrayal, every friend who crossed a line. Now at 92, with nothing left to prove, he's breaking his silence. Naming the artists who sold out, the friends who turned their backs, and the legends who left scars that never healed. Some were icons, some were family, and one or two, you won't believe he ever hated them. Number 1. G. Brooks. In Nashville, there are rivalries. And then there's Willie Nelson versus Gar Brooks. It began in the early 90s when Willie was still playing dusty Rhodeses while G was turning country concerts into pyrotechnic spectacles. To the public, Brooks was saving country music. To Willie, he was killing its soul. You can't sell struggle if you've never lived it, Willie told a bandmate after watching Gar perform Friends in low places like a Vegas act. The tension hit its peak at the 2004 Country Music Hall of Fame ceremony. On stage, Gar called Willie the conscience of country music. Backstage, Willie leaned in and said quietly, "Next time, sing it like you mean it." Those 8 words spread through Nashville like wildfire. After that, Willie refused every duet, photo, or joint appearance with G. "There's a difference between wearing a hat and earning it," he later told Texas Monthly, a jab no one had trouble decoding. G tried to play nice at first. "Man, Willie's the real deal," he said in 2010. But by 2015, his patience wore thin. "Some folks think country stopped when they did," he quipped. 4 years they stayed apart, the outlaw and the arena king divided by what real country meant. Then came a thaw. In 2020, Willie publicly congratulated G on his Kennedy Center honor. "Keep singing, just don't forget the front porch." 2 years later, Gar performed Always on My Mind at Willie's 90th birthday tribute and tipped his hat toward him. Willie smiled. No handshake, no photo, but enough to end the Cold War. Today, they're not friends, but the feud's fire has cooled to quiet respect. As Willie puts it, some of it's real, some of it's pretend. I can still tell the difference. And somewhere in Oklahoma, G. Brooks probably hears that and sings a little louder. Number 2. Juan Jennings. Out of all the men Willie Nelson ever clashed with, none cut deeper than Juan Jennings. Because this wasn't just a feud. It was a fracture in family. They built the outlaw movement together. 2 rebels thumbing their noses at Nashville's polished machine, singing about pain, whiskey, and freedom. They were brothers in sound and spirit, or so it seemed. But behind the outlaw myth, something darker brewed. Jealousy, pride, and the slow decay of 2 egos too big to share one spotlight. By the late 70s, Juan was burning out. Cocaine, pills, and late nights had turned him volatile. Every magazine cover read Willie and Juan, never the other way around. That small detail gnawed at him. "I'm tired of playing second fiddle to a man who can't even tune his guitar," Juan once muttered after a show in Austin. To the crew, it sounded like a joke. To Willie, it was a warning. Their fights were quiet at first. Missed calls, sarcastic jabs, silent studio sessions. Then came the night it broke. During a recording session in 1978, Juan slammed his fist on the console and growled, "You're too stoned to play straight." Willie, half smiling beneath the haze, replied softly, "You're too angry to sing true." No shouting match followed, just the sound of silence and a friendship splintering in real time. Still, they kept up appearances. They toured together, shared interviews, even smiled for cameras, but the strange showed during a 1981 press junket for their duet album World War I. Juan, half joking but dead serious, called Willie a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from. The reporters laughed. Willie didn't. He stood up, walked off the set, and from that moment, the calls stopped coming. Years later, in an interview, Willie spoke about losing friends to fame. He never mentioned Juan by name, but the tone said everything. "Some people think freedom means doing whatever you want," he said. To me it means doing what's right, even when it hurts. Juan, meanwhile, was no less bitter. Willie went soft, he told a friend in the mid-1990s. He's singing to the suits now, not the sinners. It was said with that trademark Jennings bite, half envy, half heartbreak. When Waylon Jennings died in 2002, the world expected Willie to show up guitar in hand to send his brother off. He didn't. He stayed home in Texas. No public eulogy, no song, no speech, just a simple bouquet of wildflowers and a handwritten note that read, "See you on the road somewhere." Those who knew him say that note wasn't cold. It was pain wrapped in poetry. A quiet man's apology to a brother he couldn't save and a friendship too heavy to resurrect. Today Willie rarely speaks of Juan. When he does, it's brief and soft. "We had our days," he told Rolling Stone. "He was the best damn friend I ever fought with." Number 3. Shania Twain. Willie Nelson never cared for glitter, and Shania Twain to him was all glitter. Their tension began in the late 90s when Shania's pop country hits like "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," and "That Don't Impress Me Much" dominated radio. Nashville cheered. Willie winced. "Country is supposed to bleed, not sparkle," he told a sound engineer. And word spread fast. It all came to a head at the 1999 CMA Awards. Shania won Entertainer of the Year. Willie sat a few rows back, clapping politely, but stone-faced. Backstage, he muttered, "Entertainer maybe, but that ain't country." When Shania approached to shake his hand, he nodded once and walked right past her. Asked later, Willie didn't deny it. "I don't hate success," he said. "I just think somewhere along the way folks forgot what the music's about." Shania stayed gracious but firm. "I love Willie. We just see country from different front porches." The years passed but the chill never melted. Willie has turned down every shared stage, every tribute. He forgave the IRS faster than he forgave Shania. A friend once joked. Today, Shania still praises him as a true poet. But Willie brushes off her name with a grin. "She's done all right. I just like a little dust on my music." Number 4. Toby Keith. Willie Nelson has never been afraid to take a stand. But when it came to Toby Keith, he didn't just disagree. He drew a line in the dirt. Their feud wasn't about ego or radio charts. It was about what country music means. For Willie, the guitar was a tool for truth, not politics. So when Toby stormed into the early 2000s with courtesy of the red, white, and blue, waving flags and spitting fire, Willie didn't hear patriotism. He heard propaganda. "A guitar should never wave a flag," Willie said quietly in one 2002 interview. And everyone in Nashville knew exactly who he meant. The breaking point came that same year at a veterans benefit concert in Austin. Willie had agreed to play in honor of unity and healing. Then Toby took the stage. Instead of harmony, he gave the crowd a war cry, shouting slogans, waving the flag, turning the show into something closer to a political rally than a tribute. Willie watched from the wings, arms crossed. When Toby walked off, Willie stopped him and said, "You're using music to fight, not to heal." Toby laughed. "You sing your songs, I'll sing mine." That was the moment it died. Any chance of friendship, collaboration, or respect. After that night, Willie refused to share a stage, a lineup, or even a photograph with Toby Keith. In private, he called him a commercial wrapped in camouflage. When fans asked why he never joined the new wave of patriotic tours, Willie simply said, "I don't play politics. I play music." Years later, Toby tried to reach out through a mutual friend, insisting he meant no offense. Willie didn't answer. "I've met louder men," he told his crew, "but not many emptier ones." The two men have spent decades on opposite sides of Nashville's soul. One preaching defiance with boots and flags, the other preaching peace with a worn-out guitar. And though the years have softened many of Willie's grudges, this one remains untouched. Even today, there's an unspoken rule across the industry. If Toby Keith is on the poster, Willie Nelson is out. Number 5. Chris Christopherson. Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson were more than friends. They were brothers. Together they built the outlaw movement, sharing stages, struggles, and songs for nearly 40 years. But one careless remark ended it all. It happened at a private fundraiser in the mid-2000s. Willie had just performed a quiet political ballad about war and farm workers when Chris, a few drinks in, leaned back and said to a small group, "Willie's turned into more of a mascot than a musician." Laughter followed, but Willie heard it. He set down his guitar, walked out without a word, and never looked back. The next day, his assistant Ken led their duet. When asked later, Willie said only, "Sometimes words don't fade. They stain." Chris tried to apologize through mutual friends. Even mailed a letter calling Willie brother. It came back unopened. Willie's reply, spoken softly to a friend. "You don't get to call me brother after that." Chris later admitted, "I ran my mouth when I should have listened. Willie's the best man I ever hurt, but the damage was done." They never performed together again. Today, the silence remains. No public reunion, no final duet, just two old outlaws traveling separate roads, divided not by time, but by one sentence that went too far. Number 6. Merle Haggard. When Merle Haggard took a jab at Willie Nelson, it wasn't some harmless rib between old friends. It was a knife between brothers. For decades, the two were inseparable. They shared stages, whiskey, and the wild dream of outlaw country. But by the early 2000s, something had changed. Merle, never one to filter his thoughts, began joking in interviews that Willie had become more weed than music. At first, Willie let it slide. He'd heard worse. But then came the night that broke everything. It happened during a joint concert in Texas. The two were on stage together trading verses and laughter when Merle, half grinning, looked out at the crowd and said, "Weed's a lazy man's crutch. Just ask Willie." The audience roared. Willie didn't. Witnesses say his smile vanished, and though he finished the set, he walked straight to his bus afterward. No words, no goodbye. From that night forward, the friendship never recovered. A duet album they'd planned for the following year was quietly scrapped. Willie's team stopped taking Merle's calls. To outsiders, it looked like a simple scheduling delay. But inside the outlaw circle, everyone knew the brotherhood was over. When asked later about Merle's comments, Willie's voice was calm, but final. "Some things you don't joke about." To him, it wasn't about the weed. It was about respect. Merle had made his life symbol into a punchline, and that was a line Willie couldn't forgive. Merle tried to make peace years later, calling it just stage humor. In one interview, he admitted, "I hurt him and I shouldn't have. Willie's got more heart than most of us ever will." But Willie never responded directly. He didn't speak against Merle either, just carried the silence the way only an old friend can when the hurt runs too deep to name. When Merle Haggard died in 2016, Willie's tribute was brief but telling. "He was one of the greats." Noticeably absent were the words, "my friend." That omission said everything. Two legends, two brothers, one careless line that ended a bond no song could ever mend. Number 7. Kid Rock. When Willie Nelson agreed to collaborate with Kid Rock, Nashville thought it would be chaos in the best possible way. Two outlaws from different worlds, one born of country rebellion, the other of Detroit grit. But what followed wasn't collaboration. It was combustion. The year was 2008. Kid Rock was deep in his Southern rock revival phase,